something I've been thinking about a lot recently is just the impact of COVID on happiness and my happiness and what it feels like to sort of be a person in the midst of all of this. So I've been looking a little bit at research about that and thought that this here's two journal articles that I think are relevant to us. The one on the left is just talking about the impact of going outside. So there is there's a large body of research showing benefits to health and your psychological state to going outside. And what this is sort of more of a meta-analysis of all these different reports, trying to figure out where is the sweet spot. Yes, we should go outside. How much time should you go outside to start to see these sort of effects and benefits? And what they came up with, as you see in the big kind of title there, is spend at least a couple hours outside every week. And that is, if you're doing that, you're in a place where you're going to be seeing kind of both health and psychological benefits from it. And as nature journalers, this is about the nature in Nature Journaler. If we're doing that, we are happier. So if we're building into if we're doing all our nature journaling inside, looking at your asparagus, that's really, really cool. But we're not getting the advantages of this going outside piece. So this is a reminder to us that there are some really significant benefits to us on a lot of levels by stepping outside of our house, and to try to make sure that just as you're trying to get in, however many steps you're trying to do a day, we want to start thinking about the amount of time that we spend in front of our screens and the amount of time which we spend outside in nature. So 2 hours a week. If we're not doing that, there's an easy fix to our lives and our oh wait, hold on. We've got more people in the waiting room. There we go. Sorry, sorry for people who are just arriving. I stopped monitoring the waiting room. For some reason today, I can't disable the waiting room. Melinda, I'm going to make you a co-host.
Okay.
And
I'll see if I can figure that out for you.
See if we can figure out what's going on with that. But for some reason, something squirrely is going on there.
I'll keep an eye on it.
So today I've got two different reports up on the screen. These are, one is we're just talking about the impact of kind of going outside. People report subjective kind of well-being as being significantly greater when you're spending at least 2 hours a week outside. So this is useful to me because, yeah, I know I should be going outside, but is there a minimum amount that I should definitely be getting? Yes, there is, and that's what this data shows. The second little piece over here is about gratitude. And a lot of people, sort of intuitively, people might think that people who have a lot of happiness are grateful, but that's actually not the way that it works. That it's actually that people who are grateful have happiness. There is if you manipulate the variable of gratitude in people by having them directly focus on report things that they are grateful for, perhaps keeping a gratitude journal, or just documenting that at the end of the day, those people end up being happier. So it's that to get happier, we want to count our blessings. And I thought this was interesting because I often think of a journal page as just a celebration and a giving thanks to small things in the world. And I find that when I do a journal page and in the back of my head, I am thinking about that this is, think of my journal page as a way of giving thanks. I find that by the end of doing that journal page, it really feels authentic. I feel just so grateful for this blooming flower, this wilting lily, this moldy orange, whatever it is that I'm looking at. And I'm starting to find the wonder and the beauty in it. Deliberately saying thank you and being aware that I am thankful and I'm giving thanks makes me feel happier. So I've subjectively noticed that when I just sort of in my head kind of tweak a journal page to as a kind of a, for me, sort of a secular prayer of thanksgiving, I end up with greater happiness because of that. So I just wanted to put these two ideas in front of people and perhaps use this as a start. All over the world, there is a COVID is causing depression. Incidents of divorces, of alcoholism, of drug use, of spousal abuse. All these things are on the rise, correlating with our frustration of being cooped up inside with COVID. And for some people, it's also they're facing an economic hardship, causes more stress, and that comes out in as depression. So I think that for recognizing this in our students is really important, and doing what we can do to help people not just develop the cognitive skills of journaling, but use the journaling as a vehicle for being happier is something that we want to think about as educators. Excuse me. And I wanted to throw this out as a topic of conversation to this community and see if what thoughts and people had about it, and if there are, so let's do that now. So thoughts, comments, ideas. Anybody have a riff that you could make on one of these ideas? Feel free to sort of unplug yourself. Unmute yourself, and share your thoughts. Kate.
Hi there. Well, I have a burning question, which I will ask later because it doesn't quite apply to this. But I've been doing the gratitude journal for a few years now. And I was doing it when my mom got sick and when she died. And it helped me get through it to a great degree. And when my friends tell me that they're really struggling, I get them a journal and a pen. And I suggest just 3 things a day, because when you start doing that, you realize that you have a lot to be thankful for, because and also if you're looking at what's good, you're not focusing on what's not good. And by the way, Jack, Melinda, you guys have made my gratitude journal several times in the past few months. Big thumbs up.
Yay. Awesome.
But I'll get to my burning question later.
Tell us a little bit more about your gratitude journaling process. You're putting down 3 things that you are grateful for. Is there any other framing that you put around it?
Well, firstly, I write down lots of things that I'm grateful for. And sometimes it's just, I've got hot coffee. It's simple as that. Sometimes, I'm thankful that I woke up and I got to, wear my pajamas for an extra hour. They're really small things, but things that brought a smile to my face for whatever reason. The other day I was in the parking lot of the grocery store and somebody needed a jump start to their car and I was able to help. I was very grateful to have like that moment of normalcy, especially right now. So
isn't it? And everybody is driving past the people with their jumper cables these days because we don't want to have. I wonder how long that person was there before you stopped.
You know what? He actually had asked a gentleman. There was a guy with a great big truck next to mine, and he asked the guy with the truck about jumper cables, and I said, "I got you covered." And I don't even need jumper cables. I've got like this little thing. It's about this big, and as long as you keep it charged, you can plug it onto your battery. You can give your own car a charge. You plug it onto the battery. It takes like no time, like less than a minute, and it charges it. It's an amazing little tool. Portable car charger, and it will charge your electronic devices like your phone, your iPad. So.
Oh, that's cool. And any other framing that you do around your own gratitude journaling?
No, I really don't. I just try to, I try to do it before I go to bed every night. And I try to think about what were some of the things that happened. Sometimes things will happen and I write them down right away. Like the other day I saw this gorgeous yellow and black butterfly that I've never seen before out of my bougainvillea. But, generally speaking, it's just whatever comes to mind. And if I can't think of anything, I think back, okay, what did I eat today? Oh yeah, that was pretty tasty. Oh, who did I talk to today? Oh yeah, that was pretty funny what they said. And I try to think back to what was good.
Nice.
So.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Melinda, you had a thought I saw a moment ago.
This is like my heart is racing right now because this topic you brought up is really near and dear to my heart. I've been doing a lot of work over the last 20 years with my own personal growth and with other people about gratitude and about nature. And in recent years, doing more background research on the studies that are out there with, especially with nature, how being connected to nature improves our well-being. So first of all, just so that I just get nuggets and I don't get sidetracked, that gratitude for me, I've kept a nature journal. Well, I've kept a gratitude journal in different parts of my time periods in my life. And I recognize that sometimes one practice that you do may not be something that you do for the rest of your life. Like there's periods of time where you might be doing some activity. You might be doing yoga for a few years and then you shift to something else, right? So I view that as not good or bad, but that sometimes our growth, our own personal growth, requires new things to come into our lives. But I'll tell you that the practice of being grateful is really important. And I do that with all my students. Oftentimes I start off my sessions with like, hey, let's all share something that we're grateful for today. Like, what are we thankful? What do we appreciate today? Because what I find that does is that it helps focus on what's going right. And oftentimes so much is going right in our world, but we focus on the negative because we've been trained to focus on the negative. Right? What's the problem that you got wrong on your 100 questions instead of the 99 ones that you did well, right? Why are we focused on what's not, that we didn't do well? We didn't, that's not up to par. So when we think about gratitude, we're shifting that perspective. And so it's kind of like when you get let's say you get a new vehicle and you start driving it on the road and you start to see every other vehicle that's the same make and model as yours. So it has to do with focus. So if we focus on looking for what we're grateful for, more things that we're grateful for will appear for us. And I kind of feel like it's, I would get gratitude chains. So every once in a while, actually, I did this, if I'm not able to write it, it's important to write it. But if I'm not able to write it, actually, this is just like nature journaling. So we write down what we're grateful for. It's kind of like the curiosity chain. You get a gratitude chain. So the first few things might be, I'm grateful for, for breathing. I'm grateful for food. I'm grateful for my house. I'm grateful for, my family. And then as you spend more time doing it, you deepen that searching for gratitude. So you're focusing your attention on what was going well today. And before you know it, you might have a list that's 10, 20, 30 items long if you allow for it. So, and having that practice, just doing it daily or regularly, is going to be part of who you are, just like nature journaling, right? We're deepening our curiosity by asking those first, like the stats, of like, okay, this shell, or this mouse, what does it eat? Where does it live? Where does it like to go? What does it do? But then as you ask more questions, you start to get nuanced and deeper questions about that mouse, right? So same with gratitude. So I think it's really parallel. And I often put what I'm grateful for in my nature journal. And I love how Jack said, just the attention that we give, even a dead mole in the garden that we've tracked over the few days of decay, I'm giving attention, I'm giving love to that creature that used to be a mole. And I'm appreciating the process of nature. So I think that, gratitude journal and nature journal are not two separate things. They can be combined in one. And I like to keep things simple and just have one nature journal where I put everything in. So that was gratitude. The other thing about time and nature, a few years ago, I was doing some research because I personally felt my life falling apart because of disconnection with nature. And I've always been a lifelong bird watcher, person who loves to be out in nature, doing a lot of nature crafts. And because of my work situation, I let go a lot of those things, and I didn't realize that they sustained me, that they brought me joy, that made me a good human being. And it wasn't until I dropped them all that I recognized that I was sliding into this way of being that was just unhappy, irritable, yelling at my family, just rushing around, feeling just so stressed out, and on the verge of just like, falling apart. And I recognized that, gosh, I haven't picked up my binoculars in forever. I haven't nature journaled. I haven't gone for a walk on the beach. So from that experience, I started to do some more research about how nature affects us. And one really great book that I came across is this, The Nature Fix. This is by Florence Williams. She's also done a TEDx talk. I recommend it because she is a journalist, but she did a lot of really great research, and this book is easy to read. You can get it on Audible. She does a lot of research on, the how nature affects us, our well-being. So, you can go and look up the citations later. She does a really good job of laying things out. But in a nutshell, there are countries on this planet, Finland is one of them, that prescribes nature time to people who are depressed. They don't use antidepressants. They say 2 hours a month, which translates to about 10 minutes a day. So this is I've always encouraged my students, before I was teaching nature journaling, about 10 minutes a day in nature can help buffer feelings of sadness and feeling unwell. And not to say that if you have depression you should go off your meds, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of evidence that's showing the positive effects of nature time, and not just outside in nature, but time, the color. There's research on the color green and blue will help stimulate the relaxation of your body instead of being stressed out. Listening to sounds of birds will help increase productivity and creativity. So there's companies that play nature sounds and bird sounds. Having a view of water and land is really helpful in helping you heal faster, right? So they did studies of people who were able to see nature out their window in a hospital versus people who saw inner courtyard of a building, and which ones recovered faster. So, you know, there's a lot of research out there. And one website that I'm going to let you know about, if you don't already know it, is the Children in Nature Network. This is a really amazing resource started by Richard Louv, who wrote The Last Child in the Woods. He and some amazing partners have come together, and I just put it in the chat. If you go there, they have a resources page. They've listed every research paper that they can find that relates to nature effects in children. And when he wrote Last Child in the Woods, maybe like 10 or 12 years ago, there were hardly any research studies. Now there's thousands. And so you can go to that resource. They have a conference every other year. It's an amazing place. And someone mentioned about access to green spaces. Go to that website. There's a lot of discussion going on how can we, and there's a lot of people doing it. Even in the United States, doctors are prescribing green prescriptions, right? Prescribing their children, patients, or adult patients to take time out in nature. And there's apps that they use to help identify what park or green space is closest to their patient. So I think that there's, you know, an understanding, like, you know, Native people have known this for eons, right? That nature is healing, that nature is what sustains us. But in our modern world, we've disconnected from it somewhat. But now there's research that's kind of showing, in case we wanted the research to show, right, that it helps, it helps in, you know, a myriad ways. Children, even people with Alzheimer's, you know, having views of green space or watching colorful fish in a tank. There was one research study that it helped the people with, I think it's Alzheimer's. They calmed down, so they were more compliant. They took their medications. They were easier to work with. So there's just a ton of research out there. So I'm really grateful that you brought this up, Jack, because it is something that we need, and I've been really feeling the effects of it. You know, with my child being on the screen all the time, we know that, you know, prolonged screen time is not good for children. We've known that for a long time, and yet we find ourselves in a position where we've placed all of our public school children in front of a screen for multiple hours a day. And, you know, maybe on one hand, we find ourselves here that maybe that's the only way that we can educate right now. I don't know, but I think that what it's doing is it's showing us, how does it work to shove your kid in front of a screen? My daughter is having physical effects, you know, and she's having headaches and feeling ill and irritable. And how do I balance, as a parent, how do I help my daughter balance that time that she has to be on the screen? Her homework has to be on the screen. And then, you know, her reading is also, it's like, you know, let's get outside, you know, how can we support the young people? How can we support each other as adults in this community? Because nature is free. And I don't care where you live. You don't have to have a fancy yard. You don't have to live in a big neighborhood. You can always find some kind of nature. If you go for a walk somewhere, there's weeds growing along the side of the road. There's vacant lots that have nature in them. Birds are everywhere. You can always find a bird somewhere. You can always look up at the sky. So I think if we encourage each other, encourage our children to find that nature, right? To kind of redefine what nature is in our mind, I think that we can make a huge difference as educators.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Melinda. Just to zig off of something that you said, this is the webpage for the Children in Nature Network. You go to their Learn tab and their research library, and the resources. Then you hit Explore Research Library. They've got all of these peer-reviewed articles, and so you can put in, if you want, you know, if there's something specific that you want to, you can get to it, you know, this way. You drop in your keywords, whatever you want to do, or you know, you can kind of go like, oh, you know, physical health, mental health benefits. Let's explore that. Mood enhancement, stress, happiness. All right, that's what I want. All right, and then you go search. You know, there's all these other, you know, categories and things, and then what comes up with like all these articles, right? You're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of stuff on here. Then, but wait, there's more, because you can click on one of those, right? And look at that. there's the summary of the article and the citation if you want to get more of it.
And you
Oh,
can save them too.
it's so cool, right?
Yeah.
So really, really, really useful for, I think these days it is so important to, as educators, the more evidence-based we can be, the better off we are. There's lots of, and this allows you to be, you know, there's data behind these decisions. Who's next? If anybody wants to expand, Heather, why don't you jump in here and share something?
This is like the reverse idea of getting out into nature, but Ivea once asked me what was one of the things standing in my way of nature journaling more, and I went into this deep thought about it, about what am I doing with my time, and I was spending too much time online. And in concert with that, we also watched the Netflix show Social Dilemma, which is, it's about the big companies, and the big idea behind that is that if there's a program that's really easy to use and very convenient and that you're spending a lot of time on and free, then it's being paid for by another way. So if you're not paying for it, then you are the commodity. And so they are selling your time. And this was just like, this just really big, and it really changed the way that I interact with the computer. But I think you also have to think of not just going out into nature, but why aren't you going out into nature? And so this idea that you're spending more time online, well, a lot of that is those big companies want you to do it. And so I think in the last 2 weeks, I've really not, I mean, it's not to say that, you know, the computer is bad, but just that you really have to be very mindful of how you're spending your time.
Very true. And also we're setting those same role models and expectations for our kids. My daughters are seeing me on a computer much more now. And we talk about, like, you know, screen time, not good. And they're like, and they watch everything I do. They watch every moment. It is, and it's difficult. They're also working from home, so they're seeing how much time I'm spending. Like right now, I'm on the computer. Fortunately, I see my daughter in the garden climbing a tree. She's actually figured out how to come up the tree, get over on the fence, go along the fence line, get to another. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that's really important stuff to think about, Heather. Can anybody else add to this? The topic for today is happiness, time in nature, connection with nature, and gratitude.
I saw Amy Sides have her hand up earlier.
Oh, please, Amy, begin to speak, and then the screen will jump over to you.
And I was gonna piggyback on something that Katya was saying earlier about the gratitude journal. Something that I've tried to do is look for ways, not just being happy about things or being grateful for ordinary things, but finding things that are only happening in my life because of COVID and because of quarantine, and being thankful for those. For example, I got to take a college class on sea turtles in May, and it was being taught normally in a normal year. It's taught on location about 4 hours south of where I am on the coast, on an island at the Sea Lab. And in a normal year, I would not have been able to take that class. But this year it was offered on Zoom because, you know, no one could be there in person. And so my whole family had the opportunity to be a part of that class. So what I've been trying to do is not just be thankful for the ordinary things, but to find little things like this forum, like Melinda's Sunday Nature Journaling Club, all the things that are made possible by the situation in the world right now, and see what gratitude I can find from them. Like this summer, we weren't able to do summer camps with my kids, and they were a little sad about that. But we have one family that we've been in a quarantine bubble with, and the other mom and I put together some camps for our kids, and they were camps that our kids chose and helped us design. And we would have never done that on a normal year, because we'd be too busy going to other people's camps, and and that's fun too. But it gave us the opportunity to just like zone in on our kids' interests. And so I'm just been trying to look for the things that weren't possible in previous times.
I think that's part of the reason why for the Sunday Nature Journal Club, Amy, you had brought that up, that I try to get everyone off the computer. So we get on it first, we introduce the topic, we talk a little bit about it, and then everyone logs off. And then I encourage everyone to go, if not outside, then away from the computer, so that they can get some nature time. And I think it's about, I like what Heather had brought up too. I'm interested in seeing that social dilemma, because I struggle with that. My choice is not to be on Facebook, but right now I have, a business that's kind of tied to partly on Facebook. And how do I, as an individual, make that change? Because I find that as a creative person, I spend a lot of hours on there, and I think that there's this false idea that I need to be on there all the time in order to make people happy, the people who are following me. And what I really want to be doing is getting people outside. I don't want to be in front of the computer creating more posts, creating the videos. I love, connecting with people with the technology, but I think it's about how can we use it in a smart way. And maybe we're still figuring that out. And I think that this right now, it feels like it's coming to a head where everybody is on the computer, and more people are on it than they used to be. And maybe this is an exercise or an experiment to see what happens when we're all plugged in all day long. Like what kind of things do we experience in our own lives, and how can we shift it? And we need people who, like Heather mentioned, like to let us know that how we're being hooked in, right, without even realizing. And then how can we take back our time? How can we take back our family time? Right? Like Jack was saying, I'm spending a lot of time on the computer. I used to be an outdoor, I used to educate outdoor and in person. That was all of what I did. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time on the computer other than, emails and things. But now it's like everything. So yeah, I'm feeling it too. I'm feeling the overload of, there's so many wonderful things out on the internet right now. And I think it's meeting a lot of people's needs of like wanting, right, something that is helping us connect with nature, but also needing to step away from the computer. Like I signed up for like a conference a week for I'm in the middle of it for like 5 weeks. And I looked at my schedule and I thought, what the heck am I doing? And what I know about the forgetting curve and how people learn is there's no way that I'm going to learn anything from those conferences, because I'm really focused on serving my students, and that's my focus. So if I cram in an hour here and an hour there, I'm not really getting anything out of it, because it's the first pass of a new topic and then I'm moving on to another topic. Well, if I don't address it in the first 18 minutes and then the next day and then within a week, it's going to be lost. So then I think, is that a really good use of my time to spend the 2 hours in a new workshop if I know that I'm not going to be able to revisit it? I don't know. Those are decisions that I have to, make case by case. But it also means that I'm depleting myself by stretching myself too thin. So then I'm finding that fear of missing out that's often prevalent on social media, which I wasn't on Facebook a whole lot until COVID hit. I'm actually feeling that fear of missing out through emails and internet. Like somebody had posted, they went, on a birding, on eBird, right? And there were like 15 people in the group. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm missing out on this. I've got to go do this bird watching thing. And I thought, oh my gosh, I feel it. So I guess just noticing, right? For us, just can we notice when that urge comes up that, that we need to do something else on the screen. So I don't know that that's an answer, but it's like, a recognition of like, wait, we can be in charge of our time.
To piggyback on that, years ago, I was with a group on Facebook. I've been almost not on Facebook. Once in a great while, there'll be something that I actually want to watch. But there was a Facebook challenge called 100 Happy Days. And the job was every day you were supposed to go on, post something that made your day happy. That's actually how I started with the gratitude journal. And so maybe the trick is to give the people following you a job to do for the day. Go find 3 birds. Go find a bird sitting on a flower. Go, but things that get them outside, and then they can all post. And you just step away while they create whatever they're going to create in that space.
Mm. I like that thought.
Thanks, Katya. That was good.
I'd like to say I came up with the idea, but I joined that and it was great. So
I had been doing a scavenger hunt where you can, post like, hey, go find a spider in the garden, or, just like what you were saying, like, go find 3, found objects from a tree, or, go find a hole or a home of an animal. So I actually really like that idea. I might be doing something like that. Thank you.
my pleasure. Thank you for all you do. So.
Linda.
Hi.
Good to see you again.
Hi. Yeah, good to be seen. I've been a little bit underwater with finishing a project, but I want to share it because today, what you're saying is so relevant to this project. And it's called a nature remedy calendar.
Oh.
And so what it is, it's a small, this is the proof. That's why I've been underwater, because I just sent it to the printer like early this morning. And so it's, and I have to say, all that computer time, my nature journaling has suffered.
It does.
Because I realize I'm finite. Anyway, this calendar is, it was designed, I'll pull up another page. I sent a link in the chat earlier. But here's another page. What it is a calendar that has on one side it's like you can use it as a calendar, but it also has tips of things to get you outside, and things that you do inside. And then at the bottom, because it's designed for the recovery community, especially, but it's anybody could use it. But in our town, somebody came across the idea of why not provide a way to get your attention off of your depressive thoughts and just simple, cheap things to do and just get outside, okay? Most of them are outside, and it has to do with taking back your attention and redirecting it into something else, which is usually by just changing your mind, like your brain on drawing. It's like your brain on something more productive. It does change your brain chemistry. So anyway, in this year's calendar, we, at the very end of it, we are putting in some citizen science stuff, links, and along with the prevention, care techniques. And I've also added, because of this nature journaling I've been a part of with this group, I've added some nature journaling stuff at the very end. And so I sent a link to the latest draft of the calendar, and I'll be posting a PDF online with that. Well, I can post it now that it's gone to press. It's out in the world. So anyway, yeah. And so I have to say that my previous life as an art teacher, just before I just stop talking to you, that my previous life was a freelance art teacher. And then I took on graphic design, which meant way too much computer time, but it's allowed me to, like everybody's having a little bit of a wince about having to do your actually computer miles to do the outreach into your communities, which is really important. I mean, if it wasn't for this nature journaling at the beginning of COVID, I probably wouldn't have followed through and returned to my drawing past as much as it would just made me do that. And so, because there's a kind of a squirmy thing, like I could do this later. And so now I'm like, after I finish this project, I'm really trying to look as far as what my drawing skills could be, or drawing teaching could be into my community, and how that is going to look. And this nature journaling piece has made such a difference in how I'm even birthing it. Anyway, that's all I have to say right now. Thanks.
When that, first of all, thank you, Linda, for doing that. I want anybody who's taking little sketch notes of this discussion, be sure to put in the comment that Linda just made. She said something that arrested me. She said, "Take back your attention."
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
It's, yeah, and to know that your attention is a finite quantity. You can't have like 110 bandwidths. It's just like one, really, to be effective.
Yeah.
And I'm an old gal. It took a long time for me to get this.
Now, when this PDF is available,
Yes.
could I get you to share that also on the Nature Journal Club Facebook page? I know
you can. It should be later today or tomorrow. I'll be able to share it. So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, really trying to repurpose Facebook there for the good. This is, wow, this topic is blowing up.
Oh yeah.
Really powerful and important ideas. We'd love to. We would love to see that. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Let's see here. Ivea, good to see you. I'm going to spotlight you over here.
It's good to see you too. Okay, I'm going to try to say something, and it might not come out very coherently, but I'm going to just do my best. It was a thought that I had when we were talking about gratitude journals. And I think it's important to have a variety of tools to deal with some of the hardships that we're doing. So I think that it's important to have the gratitude journal, but also to allow yourself time, if you're grieving, to grieve. And I'm not saying that to say that, you know, I think that sometimes we have a hard time knowing how to do that because people worry that we're maybe being negative, but sometimes it's not about that we're being negative. Sometimes something genuinely difficult's happened, and you can't heal what you won't feel. So it's important to be able to make space for that as well. And so in addition to gratitude journal, sometimes it can help you to just journal about your feelings or the process that you're going through. And to remember too that because there are so many different things that we're all going through, there's got to be a lot of different tools to help each other. So for example, somebody who is struggling from screen time has very real struggles, and that's going to need a different tool. So maybe the tool then is to like rest your eyes by going outside, or to be careful about how much time you're spending on time. And that might be a very different struggle than somebody who's trying to escape a situation with domestic abuse, who no longer can because they're stuck with their abuser. And that person might need different tools. And so it's important to have as many of those tools and that creativity in mind as possible, because we're going to meet all of these different people who have these different struggles. So if we have time, it might be good to journal about that too. To journal, put yourself in other people's shoes, the same way we put ourselves in different shoes when we're in nature. Try to imagine where that bumblebee is going. Try to imagine where that person's going when they go home. And try to imagine, you know, what they have access to. Because I think that that's where the creativity of our nature journaling can be really important, is that we have all of these wonderful ideas, and our creativity can be used to break down the barriers that are in the way of those wonderful ideas. So I just wanted to make space for that. Thank you.
The idea of I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of when I'm looking out into the world and observing nature. And then you can use that exact same tool to reflect it back on yourself. And just wherever you are, notice how are you feeling? And to document that. And then to ask questions about that. What questions can you come up with about taking, by turning your gaze inward? What do you wonder? And what links can you make that? What can you connect that to? It reminds me of that process is a really powerful way of sort of active introspection. I wonder, it reminds me of turned back towards the self. In the How to Teach Nature Journaling, I think it's in the poetry activity, we have doing I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of about the world around you, and then turning that same thing, reflecting it in, documenting all those thoughts down on a piece of paper, and then combining those, looking out and looking in together. And when students do that, the poetry that comes up is next level stuff. And it kind of, like for some people, their nature journal, it's a scientific document. It's just like, here's my kind of trying to be as objective as I can, sort of observations of that out there. But I also like to think of myself as part of the system, and I'm there, and I'm also worthy of that same sort of attention, and to be willing to give the same sort of attention to the feelings that you have inside, as I give to a moldy orange. I'm going to jump over to Arpan and then Linda. Arpan, good to see you, sir.
Hi, Jack. Hi, everyone. So, very deep conversation, really. I totally second what Evia said about you won't heal if you don't feel.
Yeah.
So I think in today's world, happiness is really overstated, and it's almost like requirement that you have to be happy no matter what happens to you. I really don't understand that. It's like it's like okay, we have so many books, so many psychologists working on it, and there's no reason for you to feel sad. I mean, everything happens. I know everything is logical, but everything is not logical. I mean, you can't treat sadness with logic, right? You have to spend time with yourself. You have to step out or just be with yourself. I mean, there is so much of madness to solve everything. I mean, what we are losing out is the gift of time that we have, the gift of time that we have for ourselves, for our families, trying to resolve everything. I mean, everything might get resolved or not resolved. There can be so much of unanswered things, but that's the way life probably should be or is. Well, what I don't understand is this madness about being happy. Okay, there is a tool, there is things, but there is also a thing about how I am feeling today. And whatever you suggest may not be the best thing for me to do. So what I need to do is I must just sit down on my balcony, do nothing. And that's far more important than any tools or research papers that I can read. That will give me far more comfort and solace, and I'll be a better person tomorrow.
That was more or less the same thought that I had. That you can be sad. You have to have some time to be sad, rather than having happiness medicines or drugs or anything of that sort. You have to have some time to be sad or anything of that sort. Sorry.
Thank you. No, thank you. Good point. The other thing, I have been on Facebook when it started. That was years ago, but I then hooked off totally. But this incessant And right now I'm on Facebook, but the only reason I am on is just to track nature journals. So nothing else other than.
You too.
Yeah. So people kind of get into a tunnel. I mean, what I can't understand is even mature people tracking their likes or dislikes or who liked them, forming judgments on those things. And that's even people with some sense of logic tend to fall for those kind of things. And it doesn't make sense to me at all. And the closest relationship in, not relationship, but analogy, I would say, to an addiction, to watching addiction, to online addiction is, uh, someone said it's like a tunnel. So if you go inside and you think at the end there will be a little light, but there is no light. You just go deeper, 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 and at the end of the day, you're just exhausted. And I mean, you're no place better, but even in a darker place than you were. So it's just a never-ending tunnel. You just go in and go in and go in, and but you think when you are inside it, that you think there will be some kind of a solution. There is something else that I need to look at. Okay, there's feeds coming here and there. Okay, that might be interesting. But on Heather's note, okay, am I being part of something? And it's all about taking a step back and thinking. It doesn't happen all the time, but we must be conscious enough to have those discussions with ourselves.
I agree.
Similar thought
I agree.
thing happened to
Yes.
me. I like.
You want to talk? Yes. Okay.
Again, yeah. In any type of browser like Google, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, anything of that sort, yeah, if you type out something to search,
Okay, go.
like you can scroll down and down and down and down forever, and you will never be satisfied. Yes, stuff like that. It's infinite, the things you can find in browsers.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and I like your new haircut, Rebanto.
Yeah, me too.
And thank you for sharing your thoughts and comments about that. I agree with what you were saying earlier, Rebanto, about, you know, that and also kind of jumping on what you're saying, Arpan, that the idea is, you know, that if the goal is to be happy and then you're not happy, then you're doing something wrong. You know, doesn't give you permission to be wherever you are. Perhaps but the idea of taking there are things that we can do, being in nature, paying attention, being in contact with community, social interactions, exercise, that I think I know that for me, pull me out when I am in a dark place. And it's amazing to see the power of those tools. And there are times that for my depression, I've also used medication. And there are times that has been a lifeline that I've needed. And for your journal to be an honest place for you to just to connect with Avea's thought that if you can't feel it, you can't heal it. A place for that. I find that when I sort of swing out into a depression, that the journaling can be a very, very powerful way of bringing me back into, I think, more of an alignment and more of a connection with what is real. because I can go spinning off in my head about the power of depression can be a vice-like grip, and that can help me pull out of that in an effective way.
Right now, John, I'm more or less spending 14 to 15 hours in front of the screen, and I think it's the same for many of us in this forum. So as you said, spending more hours, more time in nature, more time exercising. So it's something that we don't always want to do, but it really helps when we force ourselves to do that. And even at the start of the day, as a practice, I do have a journal. So other than nature journal, so I keep it next to my bed. And as a practice, when I get up, the first thing that I do is write a few things. It's not about gratefulness or anything. It could be anything natural that comes to my mind. And I write again how my day went at the end. So at when I go to bed, really. So that's a practice I've been following. Some days I can't, but I don't kill myself for it. So yeah. So I think what acts in our stress, in a very stressful life, is if we as a family, we do go up. There are no big parks nearby. There's one about half an hour from here. And when we go, we totally get lost. We don't need to talk to each other or have any conversations. We just sit in between a lot of trees, maybe somewhere. We're both playing with sticks, me and my wife just sitting around, watching some birds, or just sitting in that dark place, and we stay there till it really gets dark. And then another thing which helps is for us is praying. So we do pray whenever we feel time. So I think those things are important and helps being human, I think. Yeah.
My dear friends, thank you so much for what you have shared in this conversation. Acknowledging the stresses that we're under right now, the fears, I think is a very and not just for ourselves, in our students, in our children, is critical for us to do right now. And we've got, I think that within this, there's a number of strategies. The contact with nature, paying attention to your feelings. Let the journal be a mirror to yourself, to your own heart, as well as to pull you into a deeper communication with the natural world around you. And I also feel that being aware of what is right and acknowledging those things, having a sense of gratitude for me is it changes the way that I can feel a real difference when I pay attention to those things. And thank you folks so much for what you have shared in this conversation. In just a moment, I'm going to go make food for Carolyn and Amelia. So when they come out from their next break from their class, they'll have snacks ready for them. Snacks also help. Yeah. But before we go, if there's anybody else who had some closing thoughts, I see Ivea and Linda. We're going to just take a little bit more time here, because I think that this is a place where I don't want to leave anybody in this community feeling unheard. Ivea, I'm going to jump back over to you.
I also wanted to say something, and I'm not quite sure how this fits in, but I'll go for it. About 4 years ago, I was in the middle of a situation with domestic violence that I only escaped from last October. And around the same time period, I think I met Jack for the first time at a workshop. And I was leaving early and you were teaching the class and you waved goodbye anyways. And just that very simple little moment of kindness filled me with a lot of happiness. And so I kept coming back as much as I could. And there were field trips and it cost, well, never mind about him. But each time I came back to this community, the little moments of kindness that I experienced made me not want to stop coming back, even when I was being abused over it. And sorry, I'm getting all teary-eyed now. And so there were times I'd feel embarrassed because I couldn't be, happy like everybody else. But people were still kind to me, and so it made me want to keep coming back. And so those little moments of kindness, even if you can't feel happy like everybody else, they made me feel really safe. And that's why this community means so much to me. So even when we're struggling, it's important to think of the places where even for a few seconds we can feel safe. That means everything. Even when it takes you 4 years to escape from a situation of domestic violence, having those feelings of safety will keep you going until you reach that point. So thank you to the Nature Journal community for being a safe place.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Wow.
And may we all look for opportunities to ourselves, be kind to each other, and to find ways that we can support each other. And maybe it comes at, maybe it's just the right thing that somebody needs at another time, and a small thing can be a big thing when that's really what you need.
True. True.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say, that the small kindness can be actually really big to somebody else. So this community is full of that. So we're all doing the right thing just by being that way. If that's any comfort to anybody to know that.
It is. It is.
I think Linda was going to say something.
Yeah, you blow me away.
So strong, so wise.
So wise, yeah.
Thank you.
And so such an open heart. When a few years ago, when I just got to know some of Jack's work in one of the books, the 3 words that always stuck with me is sustain compassionate attention. And that's every, I think those 3 words, and it moves me back to my core all the time. The last thing I want to share is a tiny story from when I was teaching comic classes to mostly teenage boys. And they really have a wanting to write inappropriate, dark, whatever stuff. But during that time period, it was like, that was back in the 90s, and Kurt Cobain had just killed himself. And I realized that there was a lot of dark reasons for those dark pictures. And I had a passing thought that I might be fired from my position because I was allowing these kids to just do what they needed to do. But I felt like it was important to get that out on paper. And so, and give them feedback, like just be present with whatever their personal quest was for their drawing. And so I just feel like whatever comes out, I mean, it's when Jack would say it's not about pretty pictures. For me, it never was. And so I love the fact that people could just feel free to take the lid off and put something on a piece of paper, even though their parents might not like it, and I might not be able to hold the job. I felt like that was a kind of something, the space is really important. the space is really important to hold it. So anyway, I just am so grateful for this community. These Wednesday forums, I can hardly, I just don't want to miss them. They really help me make sense of things that I'm working on. So thank you. And thank you especially for today. Thank you especially for today.
Thank you all. Thank you all for making this conversation something that I think opened us all up.
Yeah. Okay.
Take care of each other. Take care of yourself. Be kind. Grab your journal. Go find a little moment and pay it the attention that it deserves. And I hope that it brings a little bit more beauty into your life. You can share those strategies with somebody close to you, and it will bring it into theirs. So, dear friends, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you again here soon.
Hugs to everybody here, hugging my screen. Hope you can all feel my screen, my hug. Be safe, everybody.
Love you guys.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Namaste.
Hello forever. Excuse me, it isn't time yet.
Bye-bye.